Hello, episode 9. I may be a little bit dusty because I've been doing other bits and bobs in the workshop today. And I thought I'd just have a little bit of time doing some sanding, because a massive part of guitar making, guitar building, is sanding. So I've been sanding the body. So this is the body. It's pretty much done in terms of woodwork. I've just sanded it all to 240 grit. I didn't film it because it's just dusty and, you know, noisy, but I want to play around with finishes. I know it's going to have an oil finish. I know it's going to be oil, but I've got some metallic grain enhancing filler or grain filler. It's the crimson stuff, and this is the ruby, and I used it on a Wenge neck that I did in a build ages ago, and it was really nice. And I'm thinking, just fill the grain on the top, not the sides, not the facets, but just the top with this, and really sand it back just so there's a hint of the red in the grain. So then when I oil it, that should really pop out. That's what I'm thinking. I've also got a gold one of these, but I've tried it on a piece of sapele and it looks a bit yellow, which is not the look I was going for. This is kind of warmer. I did ask Crimson, I emailed them to see if they did a copper one or what's the best way of making a copper one, and they were really helpful. You know, I can mix some copper inlay powder in with it. And I've tried all that, and it does look good. It looks great, but it's a bit too much of a similar colour to the sapele. So I'm going to go with red. I'm going to go with the ruby red grain filler just on the top, just to make that grain look a little bit red, a little bit warmer. So that's the plan. If it goes wrong, I'll just completely sand it off, but it shouldn't go wrong. It should be all right. So that's the plan. So I'm getting pretty close here to putting the whole thing together. I've got a little bit of work to do on the neck. So I noticed on the back of the neck, so here's the neck here. So the neck is faceted and it feels great, but when I sight down it, there's a little tiny kind of bulge here on the facet, and I want that to be a straight line. So I'm just going to go in and just carve that a bit more. Nothing too brutal. You know, from the top you can barely see it, but I know it's there. So it has to go, so it has to be right. And I'm going to sand the neck as well. So lots of sanding to do. And I'm going to put the neck in the slot and line it up and just get it kind of screwed in where I want it. Then I'm going to line up the bridge. And then I think I'm ready for finishing. I'm ready for... By finishing, I don't mean finishing the thing, I mean finishing as in an oil finish. I'm getting ready to start putting its finish on, but I'm still waiting for a specific tool to come. Now I could do it. The tool I'm waiting for is a fret nipper, because I've got a bound neck. Okay, so I'm waiting for a fret nipper to come. I could do it with a Dremel, I could do it with a file, but I want to do it with a fret nipper because I've never used a fret nipper before, because I didn't have one, but I've ordered one and it's on its way. It's just taking a while. So hopefully it gets here before the deadline of the competition, of the Great Guitar Build Off 2023, because that'd be a disaster. So I'm going to wait about another week for it. If it's not here, I'm going to just do it with the Dremel and files and things, because I need to get this fretted. But the body is very, very much nearing completion, so I'm really happy with that. So just let's start doing that. All right. Okay, so the body is sanded to 240, and somehow I've managed to run out of masking tape. It's obviously all the super glue and masking tape tricks that I do, but I'm using electrical tape because it's all I could find. I've probably got masking tape somewhere in here, but the first thing I could get my hand on was electrical tape. Looks quite snazzy actually. Anyway, I've masked it up, I've masked the edges up, because I'm just going to grain fill the top. I'm going to grain fill it with this, which is a grain enhancing filler Ruby, very liquid at the minute, just wants to stir up. Going to paint it on, and then I'm going to leave it overnight, but I think the first thing I need to do is just find something to paint it on with and just do it. So I will do that now. Thought I'd better film it. It's a bit difficult one-handed, but you'll get the idea. I'm just kind of getting it on. I'm going across the grain with this, so it just fills the grain. Now this might look quite brutal that I'm changing the colour of the guitar, but once this is dry, I'll sand it all back and this colour will just be in the grain. I'm kind of liking the colour, to be honest, but I need to sand it off. Alright, get a bit more on. That's quite nice, I quite like it. So it's just soaking in, which is good. I don't want it dripping down the side, so I will go around and have a look just to make sure there's no drips, and I'll wipe them off. And if you can hear a buzzing, hopefully it's not a bee or a wasp. It sounds like one of my neighbours is in their shed making something. I don't think they make guitars though. Right, okay. So that's had quite a good coat. There we go, that's had a good coat. So that's going to soak in, and the whatever the carrier is in there, I think it's water based, so that's just going to dry off, and it's going to leave the colour on the guitar. But because the grain is slightly lower, you know, the grain is a grain, the filler is going to sit in that grain, so then when I sand all this off, it will just be in the grain and it will just give it a slight kind of red look. But I'm liking that. I'm actually liking how that looks. Oh no, do we do the whole thing red? No, I'll stick to the plan. I will stick to the plan. So this is going to dry overnight, I think, because I've laid it on pretty thick. So I'm just going to let it dry overnight, and then I will come back tomorrow and I will sand it. But for you, it's going to be a few seconds. So I guess now you're going to see it dry and me about to sand it. Okay. And just like that, it is the next day. So this is now dry. Lovely. I was wondering whether to give it another coat, but I'm just thinking I'll sand this back and see what it's like, and then I can always give it another coat if I need to. I'm going to sand this back, so I'm going to set up the camera, get the sander out, and we'll give it a sand. I'm just going to change this for a better one. Alright. Okay, so now it looks like I've taken it all off, and effectively I have, but just in the grain, you can't really see it because it's dry, but with oil, that will just give it a little bit of a pop. It's going to look great. Okay, I think I'll take the tape off and see what's happening. Okay, so the tape is off. Now I can see that it actually looks quite red, but on the camera it doesn't really show up. I guess you can see the difference between the actual just facets and that the grain's a little bit more prominent, and that's the grain enhancer in there. Let's just try something here. Yeah, I can see that looking absolutely amazing with the chatoyance on that. You can't really see it, the camera doesn't really pick it up, but that is going to look rather nice. Happy with that, very happy. Okay, so the body is actually done. It's all sanded up. I've grain filled it where I want. Maybe a little bit of sand in here, I think, just because I can see a little bit of a mark. But I'll sand that, that'll take 2 minutes. But the body's done. So I'm going to start working other things out now. So I'm just playing around with the neck joint here, making sure the brake angle is okay and all of that. I just wanted to show you how good the neck joint is. So there's no screws in this, but I can pick it up quite happily like that. Okay, that's a good joint. So I've had the scratch plate on and I've drilled some holes. So there's going to be 3 holes holding in the scratch plate, and then 2 holes holding in. You can see that one had a little bit of a mishap there. I've got to put a little piece of wood and just shape it. You won't see that once it's all sanded in and stuff. 2 holding in the control plate. So what I want to do is I think I just want to paint some shielding on the cavity here. So let's do it. Okay, so I've got my shielding paint in here. I'm not going to do this one-handed because it's very messy and it's very liquid, I would say. It's a very liquid this stuff, so I'm going to paint it in the cavity, but I'm not going to do it on camera because doing it one-handed isn't advisable. And there you go, the cavity has had a coat of shielding paint. I'm not going to do in there just yet. Okay, so I think it's time for fretting. Fretting the neck, that is, not just fretting because I'm panicking. The reason I've not fretted the neck yet is that I was waiting for a tool, and here it is. So this has come from across the Atlantic to me here after many chats and discussions on forums about which was the best fret tang nipper, because that's what this is. It's a fret tang nipper, and everybody recommended this one in the end, so this is the one I've gone with. So I'm going to use this. I've never done it before, so this is going to be fun. I mean, I've fretted many a neck, but I've never done a bound neck. It's just something I won't say I've avoided it, but it's something I've never done. But I'm going to do it now, because why not? It's a competition and I'm going to push myself. So let's get to the fretting. Okay, so I've got some fret wire. There's loads there, but that's the one I go for. And I've got my snippers. I've got my little thing here that I just put the frets in as we go. And we've got the neck. So I'm going to attempt to set the camera up and film some of me snipping the frets, but it's pretty boring just snipping frets, so I probably won't film all of it. Okay, so I've got my fret wire here, and all I'm going to do is just snip it to length on each one. I like to give myself a bit to work with. And he's going my little thing here. Not the most exciting thing to watch, I suppose. Basically, let me grab the camera. I can't do it one-handed, but what I'm doing is I'm holding it against the slot, and then I'm using my snips there just to snip it, and then the ones that I've cut go in the corresponding little boxes there, all the way to about there. So I'll do this off camera and then I'll show you what I've got. Okay, so that's 22 frets cut. You might notice that this has got 23 and 24 and they're empty, but that's because this particular neck, this fretboard, has got 22 frets, not 24. Okay, so the next job is just nipping the fret ends off and hammering them in. So let's do it. Alright, so I've changed the camera just so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I need to get an overhead camera, I think, but for now this is as close as I can get you. But what I'm doing here, so where's the camera? There we go. I've got my frets here. So if you don't know about frets, if you're watching this video and you don't know about guitar making, well then thank you. But most people that watch this video are probably making guitars anyway. But if you don't, this is a fret. And it's basically, if you was to cut a section of it, it's kind of like a mushroom shape. And the bottom of that mushroom has tangs in it. And they sit in the wood and they grip the wood. But because this guitar has got binding on the edges, I need to just nip the very, very ends off so it doesn't damage the binding. And that's what this tool is for, that I've not used yet. Let's give it a go. So I'm guessing that goes in there, and I just kind of... Oh, look at that. Brilliant. That's one end. Let me just check here. The other one. That's quite nice. Yeah, okay, I see it. I see it. Right. Can you see that? Not really. It's not very clear. But I've got the ends off. I'm going to start hammering these in. So I'm going to turn the camera off while I hammer these because it's just going to bounce the camera around. But I'll stop periodically just to show you, I think. So we've got 4 in so far. Just snipped. Putting a little bit of glue in, a bit of super glue in, just to keep them solid. And just take my time with it, really. Alright, we've got 8 frets in. Just slowly getting through it. Okay, so I'm up to the inlay now. They're going to go across the inlay. So I'm going to put some glue all along it because it's essentially plastic. And I don't think these are going to grip plastic very well. So I'm going to put a bit of glue in there just to make sure that these stay in. Nearly there. So I've got it over that. Bits of glue there that needs scraping off, but that's fine. Easy. Last few to go. Okay, 22 frets in place. But the edges are very, very, very sharp. That's like running your fingers down a saw. I mean, you could probably cut through a tree with that in a minute. So I need to file the sharp edges. See all these edges here? Super sharp. All these. So I'm going to file them flush and just start making it all nice, really. It's a great noise, kind of like fingers down a blackboard. But this file in the middle of this here, just gets these edges off. A little bit more to go. Get in there. Lots of cleanup and filing and what not to do, but get in there. Just getting these flush at the moment. Pretty good. A little bit on this end here. There. That's it. All right. Okay, so that is one fretted fretboard. So what I'm going to do now is just clean up the wood because these bits of glue and filings and stuff. I'm just going to get all that off. Just going to file all the ends of the frets and stuff later. That's pretty nice. So I'm happy I've got the frets in. Just a bit of work now to get it all looking how I want it to look. That's all right. So I'm just going down every fret methodically, just cleaning any glue or anything that's next to the fret. So I've done this up to here. Now we're just coming here, so you see this glue, little tiny bit there, bits and bobs. There's more glue on here because I put glue in this. A little bit there, but that's it. So I'm just kind of scraping it all off, and then I'll start making it even nicer. And there we go, so it's all been cleaned up. It's had a little sand in between the frets. Of course it needs a full fret dress and all of that once it's on the guitar, but for now that's fretted and I'm happy with that. It's actually all been sanded up really nicely to 400 grit, and I think that's enough for the oil finish that we're going to put on it. So we're getting close to putting finish on here, which is very nice. Wow, that bang was the wind just blowing my door open. So I've been doing some sanding. I've sanded the body a bit more. It's beautiful and smooth, gotta tell you, it's lovely. Sanded in between the frets, sanded the headstock, the back of the neck. So I'm kind of at a point here where I would like to fit the neck and I'm kind of toying with. You see, the plan for this was to be a bolt-on. I just like bolt-ons, no particular reason, but it's got such a nice tight fit. I mean, you know, that's not glued in or bolted or anything. I can pick it up. You know, I can do that. It's a really good tight neck joint. So I'm wondering whether I should just glue it. I guess that one of the things that always puts me off gluing is that if the brake angle's wrong or something, I can't shim the neck. I can't redo the neck. You know, it's glued in and that's it. But it's such a good fit that I think I might glue it. I think gluing would be really nice. Yeah, rather than having the plate on the back. I'm going to have a think about that one. But so far, here we are. The body has a kind of a hint of red to it. It's very subtle. It doesn't really show up on the camera at all, to be honest. But I think once it's got finish on it and you kind of get the light on it, it's got to have a really nice kind of red glow to it. Feels amazing. Because it's been grain filled, that is super smooth. I mean, it is super smooth. But I need to decide now what I'm going to do in terms of the neck, because I'm really wanting to get some oil on this. I'm wanting to get some finish on it. Let me have a think. Okay, so I still haven't decided whether I'm going to glue the neck in yet, but what I'm doing here, I'm just kind of checking the brake angle and checking that things are how I want them to be. So I've just put the bridge here. It's not screwed in or anything like that. It's just basically that line of tape is where the scale length is. So that's 25.5 inches. And then I've just got a nut on there. It's not the nut that I'm using, but it just gives some idea. Then if I look at it from an angle, I can, you know, there's plenty of room for the strings. Those saddles are quite high, I'll give it that. I've not been messing with them, they're just kind of there. That's how I left them. But they will go down and they'll go up a bit more as well. So looking at it from the side, that's looking all right to me. So I think what I want to do is glue it. And that ruler, that wooden ruler, that was my dad's from when he was an apprentice back in probably about 1956. So I'm inclined to trust it. I'm going to trust that ruler, and I'm going to say I'm going to glue it. So let's glue the neck. Okay, well, by the miracle of cable ties, I have got an overhead camera. I thought I'd just glue it up while we're on the overhead camera like this, which is quite cool. So it's a really good tight fit, like I said. So that's in there, there's no glue or screws or anything, and I can quite easily pick that up. I've checked the brake angle and I've checked the positioning and all of that, and I'm happy, I think, to glue it. Just double checking that brake angle there. Yeah, that looks good enough to me. It looks like it's about 2 degrees, but I could be wrong. So let's get some glue in. And I'm just going with whatever this is, fast setting formula. Let's try. Let's go for it. It wants to come out. Here we go. I'm just just going to get a good dollop like that in there. And then I'm just going to kind of smoosh it around a bit with a stick. Get it everywhere I need it. I might put some more in a minute, but I don't want it all splooging out everywhere. A little bit more. In the corner there, and the back. Of course there's going to be some splurging out, but I can cope with a little bit, I don't mind. Okay. Just going to spread it about. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll put a little bit here because the back of the fretboard glues onto there. Just a little bit. Go. Okay, that's a good layer of glue. Alright, so now I'm just going to put a little bit on here. I always think you should do glue to both surfaces that you want to glue. Does it want to come out? There we go. Glue to both surfaces. That way. Don't really miss any, do you? Again, that's probably enough. Right, I'm going to go with that. So, let's get this in. Like so. It's a little bit coming out to the side here, but that's okay. Get that. Alright, so I've got the radius block here. So this is a 12-inch radius, and this is the radius block that I used. I'm going to use it as a clamping coil. I've took the sandpaper off. I'm going to use it as a clamp, such as that. And then on the back, I did have a little piece of MDF somewhere. Where's that gone? I don't know. Well, it should be okay. These are rubber, so it's not going to leave any marks anyway. But let me just kind of go under here with this. No. Alright. So now I'm clamping it. That is clamped nice and tight. That is not going to move. Just checking the side view. That is alright. That is good. I'm fine with that. Again, a bit more of a clamp. Yep. Alright. Okay. So that's glued. That is glued. So that needs to dry overnight. One thing that I will do, now I've decided to glue it, on the back here, you see I left it like that because I was going to bolt it. But now I've glued it, I can actually come in and just carve that a little bit more comfortable. Because at the minute your hand kind of hits it when you play. So I'm going to, once it's all dry, I'm going to come in and carve that just down a little bit, just another facet on there. But for now, that is glued. I'm just going to go and clean all this up with some water and some tissue, and it'll be fine. I think it's best if I lie it flat. Let's go with that. Okay, so it is now the next day. So this has been clamped up overnight. Moment of truth, I think. So let's unclamp it. There you go, quickest unclamp ever. It's glued. A bit of a mark there, but that'll rub out, that's fine. That is solid. Happy with that. Let me just check the brake angle there. And yes, we have one that looks actually all right. Okay, that's good. Next step, not sure. I'll just keep going. So I'm just lining up the bridge. I've put tape on, my new green masking tape, which I really like. It's really bright, you can really see what you're doing. And I've drawn a centre line. I've taken the centre line off the pickup cavity because I know when I did that, that was central. It just saves me drawing a centre line on the nice sanded top. So what I'm doing is lining up the bridge to the centre, and I'm also lining it up 25.5 inches scale length. I've got these, the saddles, pulled sort of halfway back, so when I come to string it and intonate it, there's movement back and forwards. So I always do this. Whenever I put a bridge in, I always kind of move the bridges back about halfway. Sorry, move the saddles back about halfway. And then it gives me movement whenever I need it. So I always line up. Firstly, I always line the saddles up together, so they're in a line. And then I line the rollers, in this case, along the 25.5 inch scale length, which is the back of this tape. So I'm just making sure that it's in line and it's straight. Just takes a bit of fiddling around because obviously I'm going to drill it and screw it down, so I want it to be right. I don't want to be drilling it and then moving it and drilling it again. Okay, so I've got the bridge in place. I'm happy that I'm central. I'm happy that it's 25.5 inch scale length. Let's just have a quick look. So if I go where I've got my rollers, 25.5 inch, I don't know if that's showing up, but there you go, that's there. And I'm taking it from the nut down there. So that's in the right place. Using a centre finder ruler, I pop it on the centre, which is there. I'm getting, sorry it's not there, there. I'm getting central. And I've got a little mark just inside there, which I don't think it's going to pick up on the camera at all, which shows me that that screw hole is centre. So when they made this, that would have been dead centre, so I'm going with that. And in between the first three and the last three saddles, that gap is the centre as well. So that's pretty much all the measuring and centering that I can do. So hope that it's in the right place. So what I need to do now is mark the drill holes. I'll mark the screw holes and then drill it. So let's do that. I'm thinking the best way of doing this, do it with my little punch. Do it with a pen. I'm going to do it with a Sharpie because it's on the green tape. The Sharpie I can get dead center. So what I'll do, I'll just turn the camera off because all you're going to see is the back of my head when I'm doing this. And then once I've marked them, I'll put the camera back on. Okay, so I've marked and I've marked and I've measured and I've marked and I've triple marked and triple measured and all sorts of stuff. And here's my 4 dots. I couldn't get to the 5th one, but that's fine. I can do that once it's in place. But what I want to do is just drill these 4 marks. If I go off the center line of these, they're going to be pretty much where I need them to be, really. Well, yeah, definitely where I need them to be. You know, so I think I will drill it. Okay, so I'm going to drill them. Just got a little bit of tape on my drill bit here. Shouldn't really do that because it stops the wood going up the drill and clearing, but I'll be careful. I've only got 4 holes to drill anyway, so let's do them. One, 2, 3, 4. So what I'll do, I'll take the tape off and we'll screw the bridge in for the first time. And just have a sort of a look where things are. I'll take all the tape off, why not? Can always do it again if I need to. Alright, 4 holes. Of course we need a 5th, but we can get that once these are in. Okay. Notice I'm not using the drill to drive these screws in. I want to do it carefully without them kind of well, marking, but also there's always a danger of the screws snapping, which would be very bad. I'm not doing them super tight at first, just so we can get them in. And then I'll tighten them up. We'll tighten that up. That one. That one. You want that one. Okay. There's a bridge. While it's there, I'm just going to drill the final hole. And I'll put that screw in. The reason I'm putting all the screws in is I just want to make sure they all go in to the correct depth. Nice and tight. There's a bit of a pain to put in because obviously there's springs and things there, but that's it. Okay, there's one bridge in place. Probably shouldn't measure now it's in because, you know, I don't want to have to redo it, but it looks pretty good. Yeah, you know what? I'm happy with that. Happy, I think, with that. Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty good. Okay. So flip the guitar over because I glued the neck. And one thing I want to sort out and address is this bit here. That's quite the point. I left that because I was going to do a bolt on deck and I needed that kind of surface area there. But it's glued in. it's in the right place and it's nice. And that bit there really needs to be a facet. It's quite an edge. When you're playing, you hit that. So I'm going to just kind of carve that off really. So even though I've sanded all this and it's lovely, I'm going to start carving into here and get this faceted off. So my first facet, I think, if I just grab a pencil, it's going to be across here, I think, somewhere there. So let's just grab, I'll mark it out with tape because it's easier. Some tape. So the first facet is going to be sort of there, I think, something like that. So that piece there coming off. And once I've done that, I can then facet down again. So I think I'm going to have to facet. And I don't want to do any damage to anything. It's already nice. So I'm just going to kind of lay out some tape on here just as a bit of a precaution. Really. That. Got a Shinto saw rasp here. And I'm going to go carefully, like this. I could use a saw. But I don't want to. Right. I'm trying to go at 45 degrees here to match all the other facets. Nearly there. Okay. So we now have that, which your hand, when I move my hand along the neck, it hits it. It's actually quite comfortable. I will put a little facet there, but I am happy with the shape and angle of that. Okay, really happy. Small rasp here. I can't remember where I got these rasps from, but they're not the standard rasp. They're like lots of little really sharp plain teeth in one direction. So it kind of just, it cuts in one direction, but it cuts really fine and really smooth. So it's good for just kind of cleaning something like this up before the sandpaper. Okay, that's nice. So I will grab something. I'll grab an 80 grit. Got my my little sanding stick here. Just get this together. Hang on. So now that's a really nice flat surface. It's 80 grit. Okay, that's 80 grit. What's that? That's 240. A little bit of a big jump that, but I think I've got something else somewhere. Maybe not. Okay, we'll go to 240 to see what that does. Okay. Okay, that's pretty smooth anyway. I'm going to go to about 500 with this. So I'll do that, then I'll take the tape off and we'll have a look. Okay, so I'm going to apply some finish. The woodwork is done. I do need to drill one more hole here in the bridge, which comes out here for the earth. I am just waiting for a 3mm, 300mm long drill bit so I can do it nice and safely. But that's fine, we can do that once it's had some finish, because I am going to put some on. So got two different types of finish here. I've got penetrating and I've got high build. What I'm going to do is go with the penetrating first, just to give it that one coat. Give it a bit of a shake. Okay. Got my tissue, so I'm just going to do little bits of this. I don't want it going everywhere. I'm going to do the sides. First, I'm going to penetrate it into the sides. See them sides changing colour and the grain coming out. That's nice. So them side facets are looking rather nice with the grain coming out like that. Looks lovely. Okay, that's done there. Let's do this side. Rather nice. Okay. Right. So that's the sides done there with the penetrating oil. I'm just going to do the top. Just going to change that. Okay, so the top should be a little bit more red because it has got a red hue to it. That grain's looking rather nice. Alright, that's just had a thin coat of the penetrating oil. So what I'm going to do is leave that for about 10 minutes and then I'm going to wipe it over again. So see you in 10 minutes. Okay, it's been 10 minutes I know that was only literally a second for you, but it's been 10 minutes. So all I'm going to do is I've got a clean piece of tissue here. I'm just going to wipe it. And it's just wiping off the excess. What seems to happen when you use oil, or what happens to me with this wood, with sapele, is you put it on, the oil soaks in on the end grain, it sucks it in, and then after kind of 10 minutes or so, it kind of pushes it back out. I don't think it likes it. You know, it catharts it. It's a cathartic kind of thing going on. So all I'm doing now is just wiping it, getting all that excess off. Around here. I'm just making sure there's no little sort of thick bits, no puddles really, because they'll just dry hard and be horrible. So I'm just flattening it all down with tissue, making sure there's no sticky tacky bits, and then this will cure nicely and it'll allow me to do, I'm going to do about maybe 8 coats of oil on this, I think, to get it how I want it. So let's say that's the first coat of oil on the front of the body. Done. Okay, so you just get that little bit of excess off. That's the first coat of oil on the body done. And already there's a really nice chatoyance to it. I don't know if you can see that, but when you get it in the right light, it just looks great. It's going to look nice outside this. Anyway, so that's that. I want to do the fretboard. I'm just going to move along a little bit so the fretboard's in view. There we go. So I'm going to use the penetrative, or the penetrating, this one. Again, I'm going to go very lightly. I've got my tissue here. And off we go. Get that end, very important. I'm just going to go methodically, fret by fret. There's going to be bits of tissue and stuff left behind here because the fret ends are sharp, but you know, it's not going to matter. The main thing is that I get the fretboard done how I want it to be. Now this fretboard, I've not sanded this to 500 like the body. I've sanded it to round about 400, so it's a little bit rougher. So it's actually going to soak in a bit more oil, but that's okay. See the difference? Done, not done. That's the look I was going for. I'm trying not to get any sort of dripping down the side. So I'm just going very lightly with my tissue. I'm not putting a huge amount of oil on. And anything that gets down the side, well, I'll wipe it, but it shouldn't be much. And I am getting oil on the frets, but it doesn't matter because they're going to get all polished up anyway, and that oil will come off the frets, no problem. Let's see what the inlay looks like. A little bit of oil should make it look a bit nicer. Yeah, not too bad at all. A little bit of hard oil off the bottle stuck on there then. That was okay, we're off. Yeah, that's looking good. I like that. Looks more like copper now. I do like applying oil. I don't know what it is. It's very satisfying. There's many ways you can finish a guitar. Some are quick, some are slow. This is slow, but it's just nice to see that kind of grain come out, you know, when you're doing this. It's a instant satisfaction kind of thing. Just grab a different bit of tissue. Starts to fall apart after a while. Nearly at the end of the fretboard. Last bit. You might notice that I don't have a nut yet. I always like to kind of finish everything and then do the nut and then, you know, string up and whatnot. So the nut's one of the very, very last things that I do. But that is rather nice on the neck. I'm liking that. On the fretboard, sorry, not the neck. I'll do the neck another day. Well, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but the body has a red kind of tinge to it, more coppery tinge, and then this is brown, just a natural wood. It should hopefully show up on the camera that you can see there's a slight difference there, which is what I wanted. And then the headstock, which I have applied a little bit of finish to, again has a little bit of a red look to it. And the more oil I apply in really thin layers, the shinier it will become. I don't want it like a gloss finish, but I do like it to have a nice kind of satin sheen to it. So I'm going to do around about 8 coats. If it's okay after 6 coats, then 6 coats it is, but my plan is to do 8 coats. Because in my experience with these oils, 8 coats looks really, really nice. And feels nice as well. One of the things I like about using oil is you don't lose the kind of feel of the wood, you know. You've not got a thick coating of lacquer on there. Oil is just a bit more pleasing. All right, that's the fretboard done. Again, I'm going to leave that 10 minutes. I'm going to wipe it off. But we're nearly done. We're nearly done with this episode. Okay, I just thought I'd show you how it looks after one coat of oil. Well, it looks pretty nice, if I'm honest. Really shows that sort of crazy chatoyance that sapele does when you oil it, you know, depending on where you stand. Okay, I think that is the end of this episode, and I've no idea how long this episode is. Done quite a lot in it. I've done fretting, I've done bits and bobs on the scratch plate, a little bit of wood carving just to make it a bit more comfortable, and at the very end there, some finishing. I didn't think I'd be getting any finish on it really in this episode, but why not? You know, why not? And it looks good. So it's here. It's had one coat. It's still not fully dry, but I can hold it. It's fine. So one coat of oil, and it looks like that. The wood grain is exactly how I wanted it. The reason I chose sapele, and the reason I decided to do a book matched piece of sapele, was I wanted the grain to run right across the body and have that chatoyance, which it does. A little bit of patchiness at the moment. That's because it has had one coat of oil. When this has had 6 or 8 coats of oil, it's going to look amazing. It looks great now. So I'm really happy with that. Happy with the fretboard, how that's turning out. So good episode that. One coat, 5, 6, 7 more coats of oil to go. And I've got to do the back yet. The back isn't done. So I'll probably do the back tomorrow. The back of the neck and stuff tomorrow, I think. But you'll have to wait for the next episode to see all of that, because this episode is done. All right. So I'll pop that on there again on the bench safely. And I'll take some close-up photos of it, and they'll be at the end of the video as ever. See you next time for episode 10. Will that be the last episode? We'll find out. Thanks a lot. And here's some photos just showing some detail really. There's the headstock looking really nice. The body, you could just make out the top has a slight hint of red compared to the facets on the side. There you can see the red, and obviously the end of the fretboard as well. That's the inlay, looking quite nice. I'm happy with that, with the fretboard. It looks really, really nice. And that's the rest of the body there, looking good as well. It all looks good. Thanks guys, see you next time.